Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Andrew and Zach at the NitPickCentral podcast. I hope everyone who's watching and or listening is having a great day today. And yeah, we're just here to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and the kind of our
Yes.
actual thoughts over the MCU as a whole right now. Zach, how you doing?
Good.
Heck
A
yeah,
lot
that's
to unpack here.
a lot to unpack. So I think
Right.
the I think the best way to really kind of get started with this whole thing is to kind of not necessarily defend the movie, but I would say like, listen, this movie is good. Like, don't
It's
listen
really
to
not that bad.
yeah, like it's not the Citizen Kane of superhero movies. It's
No.
not the Citizen Kane of the MCU as it is, but it's a good like the movie we got in theaters right now is good. Like it's not gonna blow. I mean, it might blow you away if you're not really familiar with this kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not gonna like blow your socks off like if you've been following the MCU for however long it's been going on now, like since it started back in 2008 with Iron Man. Um, like it's good. Like don't listen to what Rotten Tomatoes says. Don't listen to like all the.
Don't
I mean,
freaking listen to Martin Scorsese, dog. He don't know cinema.
you don't know cinema if it slapped him across the face with it.
Yeah, this man a fraud. No, I'm
Ugh,
just joking. I am just
yeah,
joking. That
Martin
man is a
Scorsese.
very highly skilled director. If anybody's the fraud here, it's me.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we're just a bunch of bumpkins just talking on the internet. So,
Yes, sir.
and he's a highly acclaimed director. But all jokes aside, yeah, this movie is good. I mean, you can listen to the criticism that people have for it, of course, and form your own opinion. And of course, when you go see the movie, you can form your own opinion. But it's really not as bad as people making it out to be. Like, I think
No,
people are
not
just
at all.
being mean. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's like I'm surprised that of all things, Thor: Love and Thunder has a higher Rotten Tomatoes percentage than this does. Like that to me is criminal. Like come
Yeah,
on.
that's bad.
Yeah, like we'll probably dive deeper into this when we eventually do an episode on Thor: Love and Thunder, but like the biggest like not the biggest, but something that really irks me is like in that movie in particular, like we've talked about this before, Zach, like the whole Infinity Cones sight gag kind of thing in New
That was
Asgard.
not cool.
Yeah, like I get it. It's a movie. It's supposed to be like, especially directed by Taika Waititi. It's supposed to be funny, but like if we're
No.
talking about the people in the MCU, like if someone who lost their family saw that and like was like, oh man, like Thanos killed my daughter or took my family away from me for 5 years. I didn't even know if they were gonna return or not or what actually happened. And then they
No.
see a freaking ice cream store based on that whole thing. Like all they needed to do was make it red and silver to match Iron Man's gauntlet that they made in Endgame, and it would have been perfect. But the fact
Oh
that it
yeah,
was
that would have been
Thanos'
perfect.
gauntlet, no. So
Yeah.
like the whole reason I'm talking about that is like there isn't anything in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania that kind of slaps you in the face as much as that does in Thor: Love and Thunder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I, now that's gonna bug me that I completely forgot about that until you
Mm-hmm.
until you brought it up. That's like having a World War II themed restaurant in the middle of Germany.
Right?
Um,
Like
that's not a good combo.
exactly. Like it's like and the fact that like this one small change, just changing the color of the gauntlet on the sign is all they needed to do. But the fact that they didn't care enough or pay attention enough to that detail just goes to show like how much lack of what's it called, like there's just a lack of care in some of these more recent
Lazy. They're
MCU
being
movies.
lazy with it.
Yeah, very lazy sometimes. Not all the times, but when there's things like that that are so easily fixable, like
Yeah.
come on, like it's right there.
Well, since we're on that topic, and I feel like you can get behind this too,
Oh,
the nanotech.
oh my God. Yeah,
It's you want to talk about lazy,
yeah, like that's getting way out of hand.
way out of hand. It's everybody has nanotech now. It made more sense when Iron Man had it
Yeah,
because technically, I guess you could say he invented it. But why does everybody have to have it after that? Like, it definitely does not fit Thor
no,
whatsoever.
no, like
And what you can call me old fashioned, you can call me whatever you want, but I like the clinking and the clanking of a big metal helmet, or
yeah,
like the OG Ant-Man helmet where it's like he pushed a button and the like breathing part just kind of dangled there like a mask.
yeah,
That I like that. I
yeah.
don't like the nanotech part.
Exactly. Like I just wish they would have kept that. And like I kind of get why. Like of course they want to have the actors' faces visible so like people know obviously who's playing the character and whatnot, and so they can get their screen
Well,
time
yeah.
and everything. But like it just doesn't make sense within the context of the universe. And like you said, it makes sense that Iron Man has it because he invented like his version of nanotech. Um, and it makes sense for Black Panther, like T'Challa and Shuri to have
Oh
it
yeah,
because they
yeah. I
live in
completely
freaking
forgot about that.
Wakanda.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Thor having it, no. Like the dude is an Asgardian god, and like in Thor 1, they kind of say like, yeah, like I'm from a place where magic and science are almost the same thing, but like magically having a helmet appear, especially on Jane Foster's Mighty Thor,
Oh yeah.
like in the very first scene where we see her with the broken up Mjolnir, that makes no sense. Like she just magically whims the helmet off of her face for that reveal, and then Thor's like, "Oh, like come on!" And then and in Ant-Man, like they just click a button on their chest, and then all of a sudden they have the suit on, and that's for Hope and uh,
Well,
Scott.
okay. You bring up a good point, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess you could say, because if you watch the movie, the suit is nanotech, but the helmet is not.
Yeah.
The helmet kind of is like an origami thing where it folds up and goes on their back,
Mm-hmm.
and you can visibly see it folded up on the back of his neck.
Yeah.
But the suit part, nah, I don't vibe with
Yeah.
that.
And like I could be wrong, but like I'm pretty sure they don't, like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, I don't think they even touch the helmet to retract the helmet anymore. It's just
No, they
whenever
just
they
kind of
wanted
flip
to.
their head back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like that's cool. Like that is an original idea. It's kind of building on the whole nanotech and like the suit just with like having itself form around you. Like that's a good idea. Like if they just would have kept the regular suit, like putting it on, kind of like that scene in Spider-Man Homecoming where he's in the alleyway putting on the suit like that. Like if they just would have kept that for Ant-Man and then had the helmet be how it is in the movie we got, it would be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
But we don't need to push it any further. Like I swear, if okay, so technically Star-Lord does kind of have a nanotech helmet because in the first one it is kind of nanotechy.
I mean, that makes sense though because he's in like the far reaches of the galaxy with the Ravagers and all of that. Like that makes
But
sense.
that makes sense. But I swear, if I watch the movie and all of them get it, like for
Oh,
suits and
yeah, for
stuff,
Guardians 3.
yeah, I'll be a little upset. But
Mm,
other than that,
yeah.
other than that,
Yeah, that'll be a little annoying.
yeah, because that'll be 4 consecutive movies now with nanotech in it.
Yeah. And
So,
that's not even to say that the nanotech even looks good most of the time because like there's
no, it doesn't.
especially in Thor: Love and Thunder, like we just keep trashing on that movie, but I mean it's got a
Yeah,
lot to
so
trash on about.
plot twist. This is about Thor: Love and Thunder. We haven't even seen Ant-Man yet.
Yeah, I don't even know
No,
what Ant-Man is.
clickbait. No, I'm just kidding.
Gotcha. Oh man, but speaking of another kind of gotcha moment, MODOK.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, let's talk about that guy for a second.
God. Okay, so let me just get this off my chest.
Okay.
Everybody's hating on MODOK.
Yeah.
I understand why, but then again, it's very challenging to adapt a character like that onto screen. What did you expect?
Yeah,
Like most of the hated like reviews are towards that character. He
mhm.
looks like that in the comic. Like
Exactly.
I was just happy to see him on screen. Now, granted, he was a little too happy in some scenes.
Agreed.
Like in the comic, he always has like a monstrous looking, grotesque, mean looking. Like if you were to
Yeah.
stare at him, you'd be like, "Oh God."
Yeah,
This one, if he smiles, you're like, "Oh, he's gonna sell me car insurance."
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the comics. He's almost got like a permanent scowl, you know, like he's
Mhm.
always just looks mad or just deterred.
Exactly. This one, it just looks like an infant in a high chair.
Yeah, like oh god, and they even draw that comparison because when Cassie and Scott get trapped and get sent to like Kang's like prison cell or whatever, they're even like, oh look, you got baby legs, like
Yeah.
like
There
oh
you
my
go.
god. But yeah, MODOK, he is uh, a very or I wouldn't even say divisive, just really controversial part of the movie. Just because, like, kind of to circle back to what I was saying before, a lot of this movie, Ant-Man, Quantumania, a lot of it is just so easily fixable. Like the shortcomings that the movie has are so easily fixed that like I just wonder why, like, was there no reshoots for that, or why these kind of things weren't seen in like the first drafting phases of the script and all of that. Like that's kind of how I see it. Like if a random guy on the internet like me can easily see how this movie could have been way better than it is. I mean, like I said, it's good the way it is, but like it's
Could
just
be
like
better.
it's a solid foot. Like I forgot where I said this. I might have jotted down in my notes, but like if you were to, like, you know how people like kind of pinch their thumb and pointer finger together to see it, like, yeah, it's that close. Well, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is a solid foot, 12 inches away from being like an epic sci-fi family drama set in the MCU and the quantum realm. But
Yeah.
it's
There's definitely
just
some puzzle pieces missing,
yeah.
but
Yeah, and like part of that MODOK, like in my opinion, if they just would have kept the helmet down, like the helmet that he has in the movie, if they just would have kept it down, like kind of what I was talking about, he has like the helmet has like that permanent scowl and like that evil looking face. Like
yeah.
if that was just there the whole time, all of the jokes, all the scenes that he's in would have been fine. All they had to do was keep the helmet down. It could still be Darren, but just kind of have like a robotic kind of voice. Like they could have done with MODOK what they did with what's that one scientist in Winter Soldier who like downloaded his consciousness into the computer?
Oh, Zola?
Yeah. If they would have done with that for Darren in Quantumania, that would have been fine. Like as is, all they needed to do was
Oh, yeah,
flip
and,
that
like,
helmet
revealed it
down.
closer to the end or something like that?
Yeah, it
Like,
would have been
showed its
fine.
baby face?
Yeah, and like at the end, like if they kept the whole Cassie saying like it's not too late to stop being a dick, and that's when you get to, or no, even at the end, like after they fight Kang and like MODOK's dying or whatever, and he says, "Oh yeah, like I'm just glad I died being an Avenger." Like
Well,
that
and I feel
got me honestly. I was like, that's good, that's good.
I feel like on top of that joke, to make the scene even more funnier, the running gag throughout the film where everybody collectively goes, "Darren?" I feel like if he would have kept the mask on until that very last moment and he lifted it up and they all collectively at the same time went, "Darren?" That would have made the scene even better. And then had the
Yes.
Avengers joke play after that.
That's
That would have been
so
great.
genius. Oh my god. That's perfect. Yes. Like,
'Cause that would have been
it's
like
right
comic
there.
relief for a character that is literally dying right in front of you to go out with a funniest like just to brush off the seriousness of the film of the scene like, "Oh, Darren? What?" You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that would have been
Like,
great.
yeah. Like, it's just right there. It's right there. But
Yeah.
they just didn't go for it. And like, I think like I don't know if you knew, but this movie, Quantumania, actually underwent, I don't know. It had reshoots in January, like a
Yeah, I've heard
month
about
before
that.
the movie came out. And apparently a
Yeah.
lot of it was for the ending, like all the photos that I could find. Like I started looking about that for like a solid hour or so one day when I heard about that. I was like, a month before release? That's crazy. But a lot of the photos that I saw were the ending of the movie when he's walking down the street again, like he did at the beginning. And so that, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but apparently in one of the earlier versions of the script, Ant-Man and the Wasp were actually trapped in the quantum realm. Like when
Which is
Hope went through the
definitely the
portal
direction
again.
I thought the movie was going to end.
Yeah, yeah, like when they're like after Kang gets sucked into the multiversal engine and they're having that moment together where their heads are together. Like I thought that was just going to be it, but then the portal opened up again and I was like, "Oh,
I feel like that was a creative difference beyond the director's control. I feel
oh,
like that was a
mhm.
Kevin Feige decision because
Mhm.
he's like, "Nah, I got other plans for these guys. Why don't we just pull them out?" You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And then
Yeah.
they just kind of reshot the whole last bit.
Yeah, and it kind of would have been retreading the same ground because they basically did the same thing in Ant-Man and the Wasp like back in like 2018 at the end of the movie in the post-credit scene when they were messing around with the quantum realm and then Scott's in the quantum realm and then all of a sudden Hope, Hank and uh what's her name? Janet gets snapped away and he was trapped in the quantum realm, but I mean like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just feel like the original ending, if that's what's actually what was the case, I feel like the movie would have had a lot more stakes toward the end. You know, like oh my
Yeah, yeah,
god,
yeah.
they're trapped again. But I mean, at the same time, I guess like I'm a little fuzzy on Ant-Man and the Wasp, like one, but I don't know if they still have the technology to go down into the quantum realm, like what Hank did to save Janet in that original movie. You know, so I mean,
I don't believe so because it was in the back of that van, and then that van ended up in the battlefield in Endgame, I believe.
yeah, yeah,
And then it had
yeah.
a giant blade tossed through it from Thanos,
Yeah,
so
he
I think
freaking
it's
chucked it.
done.
Yeah, so I
But
mean, I like it was like I said, it was just right there. It's right there, but they just didn't go for it. And
on the plus side, to circle back around to
yeah,
what we were first talking about, the one bit of this movie that I'm actually happy about is MODOK's helmet is not nanotech.
yes,
It's a legit helmet. It actually
yes,
slides up. You hear it, and for me in my head, I'm like, oh my god, it's a legit helmet. Let's go. Why
that's a
am I getting
W.
excited over a helmet?
That's a W for helmets everywhere. Celebrate.
And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first in the last video. I was right. That was in fact Darren.
Darren?
That was in fact Darren. I
Oh
knew it was
man.
going to be. I had a feeling it was going to be because way back when they teased a couple pictures and MODOK was kind of blurry in the background. I
Yeah.
think I told you before we even recorded that guy looks familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're like, I bet my bottom dollar that that is Darren Cross from Ant-Man 1. I'm like,
And I'm gonna be honest with you, that's kind of a genius idea
yeah.
because I like it because it was a character that was easily just brushed away in the first movie, the first
Yeah.
Ant-Man, and they brought it full circle by turning him into a completely different villain.
Yeah.
which is in my I like MODOK, but he's kind of a goofy character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in the comic books, it's kind of hard to adapt that to screen.
Yeah.
So
Like they even tried to do it back in like I think 2019, 2020 with like that MODOK show on Hulu. Like, I don't know if you saw
well,
that
and
or not.
see, and that's more of a cartoony show, so it
Mm-hmm.
works great.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different at IRL, I guess, in the MCU because
Mm-hmm.
it's not a cartoon. How would you go about this?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect way to do it. I was kind of hoping, spoilers by the way, I was kind of hoping he didn't, die,
Yeah.
because I would have loved to see him work for AIM at some point in the
Yeah.
MCU, and then get a hold of like Justin Hammer or like any of the Iron Man villains.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
God.
that would have been great.
Could you imagine Justin Hammer and MODOK being in the same room?
I don't think Justin Hammer would take too kindly to a giant floating head.
No.
I think he would be a little freaked out because, I mean, he was having a hard time with the guy that had a bird, my bud.
I want my Boyd.
I don't speak Russian. But yeah, I don't know how that would pan out exactly. But yeah, that would have been nice to see. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
MCU is infamous for bringing characters back from the dead, so
Yeah.
we'll
As what
see.
John Campea calls it, it's the MCU, or no, he calls it the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death Universe.
That's probably what we have on our hands here.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out
But
John Campea, by the way. His channel's great. I watch him like literally every day.
not a bad channel, I will admit
Mm-mm.
that.
Yeah.
But
But kind of to circle back to what we were talking about just a few moments ago, the CGI in the film.
eh,
It is good most of the time.
that's a perfect explanation.
Yeah, like the key word in there is most, because there's definitely some spots here and there where you're like, yeesh, that could have been put in the oven a little longer, you know?
Well, and there's time, I think I told you when we watched it the first time, there was times where like Scott Lang or like Cassie or all three of them were standing. It definitely looked like they were in front of a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing else was in the room. It was just them and a green screen.
Yeah.
And then there's some spots where it looks really good.
Yeah.
And then there's the green screen part, like what you would see from a sitcom on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeesh.
Yeah. Like, I think one of the most glaring instances of that for me was when he was in that probability storm, which, by the way, that was an awesome scene that, again, like, the one we got was good. I think it's one of the best scenes in the film, actually. But it could have been way, way better if, like, the emotional and personal story for Scott was kind of more a part of the film. It kind of was, but it kind of wasn't. But anyway, that part in the probability storm where there's this big column of Scots trying to hoist up the, like, our main Scott to like get the actual battery or whatever.
Yeah.
One of them is like running or something, and like it just looks really, really rough. Like, I don't know if you spotted that or not, but like once you
Oh,
see it, you can't unsee it. And I'm like,
I
yeesh.
got another one for you that's even worse.
Oh,
So there's a scene in the movie, I think it's like right after everybody like lands in the quantum realm. You know how everybody got separated? Scott and Cassie were on their own,
yeah.
and the other half of the group was on like another part of the quantum realm. Well, there's a part where like Kang's like army,
Mm-hmm.
or no, it was MODOK and Kang's army when they first showed up, and they're like attacking that settlement. They got their suits on, and we see Cassie in her suit for the first time.
Oh,
When
yeah.
when she shrinks and the camera zooms in on her running, she got noodle arms.
Yeah.
It
Noodle
looks
arms, noodle legs.
unnatural. It
Yeah.
looks so unnatural the way she's running, and it bugs
Yeah,
me.
it almost looks like I hear people say this all the time about some CGI in Marvel movies, but like in this case, I think it's valid. Like it literally looks like a PS2 cutscene character running. Like that's
Yes.
exactly what it looks like. Yeah, like aside from those few instances, I'm sure there's a lot more or a few more that we like either can't think of right now or didn't see. But in spots where it really shined, in my opinion, were when they first all got sucked down into the quantum realm, like that whole trippy sequence of them like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. That was like awesome. Like I was not expecting them to be thrusted into the quantum realm as early as they were, but
It was
like
like 10 minutes into the film.
yeah, like right around the 10-minute mark, like no longer than 10 minutes. But yeah, that whole sequence of like with the whole like them going through different levels of the quantum realm and like that uh what's that called, like an ant farm that had Hank's super smart ants in him, like when it was like getting destroyed or something. Like that scene was I think that's a top 5 scene in the film, honestly.
Oh, now that you bring that up, so I don't know if you remember when we watched that the second time.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling you I don't like the whole idea of the ants just randomly showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I was oblivious to the fact that Scott literally slid down the ant farm glass when they were shrinking. I completely forgot the thing got sucked in with them. So
Oh.
that makes a lot of sense why they just randomly showed up because they've been down there the entire time they were there
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah.
And I think yes, Hank kind of literally told us that at one point because
Mm-hmm.
he was hearing it in his ear or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so oblivious to that when I was watching it. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
I just thought they legit just showed up. I'm like, yeah, okay, no.
Yeah. I wish they would have had that be a little more obvious, because like they show like some like flashbacks in the movie, like when Hank's like breaking it down, like he's like you see him like messing with his ear. But the only, like I could be wrong, but the only times that I saw him like fiddling with his ear were when like him, Janet, and Hope are kind of making their way through like whatever kind of weird forest they were at before they went to that one guy and Janet stabbed him. Um, I saw him do it there, and then there was that one time at the Star Wars cantina looking space bar or whatever.
Literally.
Yeah, that scene I think was also really cool.
There was one more. It was when he was flying, and before he met Modoc for the first time. You know how they're all down on the ground. He just kind of
Yeah,
hovered in there. He heard it
yeah,
then too.
yeah.
Um, and then there was that whole Darren running gag.
Oh
But
my god.
it does, now that I pointed out, it definitely did happen because I saw it the second go round. Um, that was one of the first objects to get sucked in was that giant ant farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else got sucked in, and as they're shrinking, they all literally slid down the glass
Yeah.
of the ant farm as they're shrinking. So that makes a lot of sense now. I obviously didn't put that together when they were happening because there was just a lot happening
Oh
all at
yeah.
one time. I was
Yeah.
just amazed at what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But
Like that like I said, that scene is like one of the moments or one of the sequences in the film that
that is
really
one of the moments
showcase,
in the movie.
yes,
Yes.
it is a moment of all time. But yeah, that's one of the scenes in the movie that really showcases just how good the CGI in these movies can be and how imaginative the visuals can be if the creators and the VFX artists who work with these studios have enough time to see their vision like to the fullest, you know? And
Yeah.
I heard something that's actually turned out to be true. I don't know if it was on John Campia or some like entertainment website, but apparently um some of the or a lot of the VFX artists were actually told to, instead of work on Ant-Man and the Wasp, they were
Oh, on Black
contracted to go to
Panther.
work on Black Panther. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that too.
And the craziest thing is, they even have a joke about that in She-Hulk.
Uh,
Because at the last episode, like Jen is talking to the Kevin robot, which is by the way, one of the dumbest things the MCU has ever done, and that should never be a thing ever. But anyway, um, he's literally saying, like, she was saying, like, uh, okay, I'm gonna change back into Hulk or She-Hulk now, and then Kevin's like, please, do it off screen because we do not have enough budget to like show that. And then it plays like and then he said, we're diverting some of our artists to a different project, and then it has like the Wakanda do, and like the fact that they had that in She-Hulk, and then news comes out
Too
where,
woke.
yeah, yeah, it's just like, come on now, like you're literally showing the cracks as blatantly as possible in this whole system that they got going on.
Yeah.
But
Well, before we get on a whole spiel tangent, back to ants.
yes.
Hank, okay. I understand the whole trying to balance all of these characters in the movie
Mm-hmm.
because there is quite a bit of characters, if I do say so myself.
Yes, there's a lot.
But the movie is literally titled Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. There's not enough Wasp in this movie, I felt like.
I agree. I fully agree. She has almost nothing to do throughout the whole movie except for at the end when she comes in and saves Scott. Like, I feel like that's the only reason her name was on the title.
Literally.
Because like all she really does is talk to Janet about how, like, hey, like you can open up about what happened like when you were trapped in the quantum realm, like you can talk to me. And then throughout the whole movie, up until Janet finally does explain what's going on, which, by the way, is kind of dumb. But
yeah, agreed.
but other than that, like trying to beg her mom and like kind of trying to relate to her mom and stuff like that, like she really just doesn't do anything besides like that one action scene at the cantina or whatever, and then a few other spots, obviously, and then in the final battle she kind of does some stuff, but nothing that another character couldn't also do, you know?
I agree. Plus, speaking of that Star Wars cantina scene, Bill Murray.
Dude, I am just utterly flabbergasted at the fact that they used that small snippet of Bill Murray in the marketing for this movie. Like I don't even think he had a total of 5 minutes of screen time in this movie. Like,
Nah, they shouldn't have even showed it.
yeah, like I don't understand why they used that as a marketing thing. Like that would have been a nice little cameo, you know?
Yeah, like if literally they kept hyping him up to like, oh yeah, I have a friend that could help us. Who's this friend?
Yeah.
You know, yada yada yada. And then they mentioned the name, they dropped the name, and then they even did the whole tease thing, the way they filmed it, because it happens in every movie. You know, whenever the big shot movie actor shows up,
Yeah.
they do the behind the back shot and slowly pan around to where you go, oh my god, you know,
Yeah.
super hyped up. Well, we've already seen it, and as soon as I saw the white hair, I'm like, I already know who this is.
Yeah. And
it
like,
didn't hit as hard as the way they intended it when they filmed it,
yeah.
and that's disappointing.
Yeah. And like kind of what you were saying, the way they filmed it, like it was kind of epic. Like he comes in on that ship, like through that wormhole or something, and then like there's that big like thumping like synth bass going on. It's like doom doom boom or something like that.
My guy's got subs in that spaceship. That was literally him jamming.
Dude's bumping "Just Wanna Rock" by Lil Uzi in the ship.
He's got Logic up in there going on.
Yes, sir. But yeah, like they had that like huge epic like intro sequence,
literally, and like the camera is even behind the stairs when he's walking, so you see his back. It's all hyped up, and then it does the super slow pan around the shoulder to reveal who it is. But we all already knew who it was because we saw it in every single trailer for the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I almost used choice words there.
Yeah, like I just don't understand why they used him as part of their marketing, because it just didn't really make any sense. And like he other than Him kind of going behind Janet's back and letting Kang know where they're at and like what they're trying to do and everything. He really doesn't do an awful lot.
No.
Also, kind of to circle back to what I was talking about earlier with the whole like they're a foot away from being an epic family drama. In the comics, I don't know if you knew, but Hank Pym is actually not the greatest guy in the
No.
comics. He's
He
a
is
wife
a
beater.
monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but in this Ant-Man trilogy, I mean, besides him being kind of a dick sometimes to Scott and like him like kind of yelling at Hope in the first movie about the whole like I just want to protect you kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's a
In this
stand-up
movie, he's
guy.
more of like a in this one he's more of the comic relief of the
Yeah.
bunch,
Like
which I'm okay with.
yeah, like he's a stand-up guy. And like I just don't understand how like they had that whole thing like when Bill Murray sits down with them at the table and he's like, "So are you human?" And then Bill Murray's like, "Oh, well, only in the way that matters." And I think we all know what he was talking about.
In the back of my head, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, like,
Stop.
and the fact that they kind of just gloss over that, like they literally treat it as a joke, which admittedly the joke was funny, where he was like, "Really, that guy?" or something like that, and then
Yeah.
Janet's like, "I had needs," and then Hope's like, "Oh my god!" Like that part was funny, but like
Yeah.
that kind of joke could have been something like toward the end of the film. What I wish they would have done is kind of have that be a point of contention between Janet and Hank. Because like I mean, yeah, he also says like, "Yeah, I was with someone else, but she wasn't you, baby," or something like that. But in
That
this,
made me cringe a
yeah,
little bit, not gonna lie to
yeah,
you.
I just wish they would have been like, "Wow, like you cheated on me, like, and I thought you were dead." Like the whole like there's some really good kind of drama right there, and they kind of just gloss over it. You know, like
Well,
it's
and
right
I
there.
feel like this whole scene would have felt completely different if it hit the exact same punch as like John Krasinski's character showing up in Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
We had no I mean, we kind of had an idea he was going to show up, but they never advertised any of it.
No.
Like if Bill Murray just randomly showed up and was just being Bill Murray, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
Like if I had no idea he was going to be in this movie, I would have been ecstatic to see him on camera literally making sex jokes. That would have made my afternoon. But unfortunately, I was robbed of that because it was in every single trailer for the movie if I didn't already mention that. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Like this whole movie could just be summed up in what I said. Like it is just a foot away from being that much better than it already is.
Well, and you summed it up perfectly when I first saw it, because we saw it at separate times our first time.
Yeah.
This movie is literally the definition of a mixed bag.
Yes. Which, by the way, shameless plug. Follow our Twitter. Link is in the description. You'll find all of our first, or as early as we can, you'll find our reactions to these new, like, really big movies. And that's something that's literally, like what you said, I literally led with that in my tweet. I was like, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the definition of a mixed bag, which it really honestly is.
It is. There's so much going on.
Yeah. So,
But
kind of to feed into that, like, we've been kind of dogging on this movie a little bit, talking about like where we think it's kind of come up short or where they could have done some things better. But I think we should switch up the vibe and kind of
definitely
talk
go
about
with
things that we really like about it.
yeah.
So I'll kind of let you take the reins on that one. Like,
Okay,
what's
so
really stood out to you?
I've got this in the mind, and it's made me very happy to see it on screen. Comic accurate Kang suit.
Yes.
That literally made my whole viewing experience so much better because, like, when he showed up, and I said it every single time we watched it, when he showed up and his mask went away, and he's like, "You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?" Ice, dude, like straight up ice. That gave me chills.
As soon as he said that line, like you just see like the gritting teeth, like blue ice cold emoji pop up. Like
Literally,
ice.
that's how I felt. Like I got goosebumps. I'm like, oh man, that's not good.
Yeah. And like they kind of like some people like look at that scene, like I've seen people look at that scene and say like, oh, like they're they're trying to build up Kang to be like a real menacing kind of force, kind of a villain, and then the first scene we really get with him with our main character, he's spitting out jokes. I'm like, dude, that's not a joke.
No.
That's him saying like, yeah, you're literally nothing to me. You're a fly on the wall. I've killed I don't even know how many versions of you. I don't even know which version of you are. I don't even know what kind of hero you are because I've already killed you so many other times. I don't care.
Exactly. He is the menace.
He is him.
Literally. But other than that, his performance literally carried the movie.
Oh my god. Like
Like his
yes.
back has gotta hurt from carrying this whole
For
movie.
real. Dude was deadlifting. I don't even know how much, but I mean, obviously it was a lot because the dude is yoked. But um yeah, he carried the movie hard. And like I really kind of like how the characters were all like building him up throughout the whole thing because like you had Janet say like, yeah, like you don't want to mess with this guy, like I and it kind of leads back to the whole like I can't explain right now, that kind of, I don't know, that kind of thing just rubs me the wrong way. But the whole like, yeah, like you just don't want to mess with this guy, like we just need to keep moving so he cannot find us, he cannot find me.
Now that you bring that up, I wish they wouldn't have even even brought it up. Like when the spaceship show up,
Mm-hmm.
Janet shouldn't have even said anything. That would have built more of a mystery aspect for it because we'd all be trying to figure out what these ships are and who these people are, just like Hank and Janet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We would have been able to connect with them easier. But because Janet keeps saying, "Oh, you don't want to mess with this guy. This guy's a problem,"
Mm-hmm.
it kind of robs us of that feeling because she keeps explaining to us that this is not the guy we want to mess with.
Yeah.
Ironically, this is the guy we want to mess with. Um,
And like it honestly doesn't even really make sense because
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
she only knew him as like a quote unquote scientist like when they first met, but and then after she touched the multiversal engine, after they fixed the battery and touched his like time chair or whatever, she only sees like flashes of him like killing people and just annihilating timelines. She doesn't see him with all of this. I mean, she sees him with the suit, but that big drone thing, like that's nowhere to be seen. Like we personally as an audience do not see that through Janet's eyes. So like the fact that she's like, "Oh, that is from the guy who I that we shouldn't be messing with." That makes no sense. That's a great detail. Good.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Kang. Side note aside, Kang carried the movie big time, and like kind of circle back to that first scene where he's talking to Scott. That is like a really, really big tone setter for the rest of the movie going forward, because you just see how just menacing and how he just how careless, or not careless, but how much complacent, that's a good word, he just doesn't care about this guy. Like he's literally just using him as a tool to get the engine he needs, and then he's gone. He's gonna annihilate other timelines, other universes. He's just wanting Scott to be a pawn in his game.
Exactly. The stakes are presented to us right then and there.
Yeah.
And the movie is pretty well set in stone after that point.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you watch him, but Jeremy Johns, he's a film critic on YouTube, and he, in his spoiler review, he put it very, very well, and I kind of touched on it earlier, but he kind of related Kang's technology to how Thor explained it in the first Thor movie, or talking about Thor again. But Thor says, like, I'm come from a place where magic and science are basically the same thing. And in this movie, his technology is so advanced, it basically is magic. Like, the dude is levitating Scott. He's forcing him up against this, like, electric portal. He's making... I really don't know how he does this, but he has these ability to like tighten up their suits so he can like crush them with their own clothing. He's making portals and everything. He's got lasers, obviously. He's got the helmet, and he's got like a kind of has the force or something like kind of telekinetic
Yeah,
ability.
I've noticed that too.
Yeah, he like the technology that was on display that he had. Like I said, Jeremy Johns put it perfectly. Like it's almost to the point where you can't really decipher like is he magic or is it just like technology that we haven't even seen before.
Good
And
point.
yeah, um, there's kind of a little asterisk to that though. At the same time, like we're talking about how good how what we think the movie does good, but there's a little asterisk. Like this whole movie just has a big asterisk on it. But in the movie, we see he has the ability to make shields, and he has a kind of a area of effect like shockwave attack or whatever. Um, he doesn't use that against the ants at all. When Hank is telling the ants to trample him.
That's
And
another plus to this movie, by the way. That was a very good moment, giving
oh
Hank his shining
yes,
scene. I loved that, by the way,
yeah,
because we don't
because
really get any of that in any of the other movies.
yeah,
Because I feel like Hank, if he was in Endgame, would have pulled this exact same thing, and the
yeah,
whole battle probably would have been over.
yeah. Like, um, you've seen What If, right?
Yes,
Like
yeah.
that one episode when he's killing the Avengers, like that just goes to show how you really do not want to mess with Hank Pym because he'll mess you up quickly and you won't even know it's him because he's just very methodical and he's very precise in what he did in that episode to make it to where no one knew it was him up until the end when
Exactly.
Loki got him. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that scene at the end when with the whole ants swarming in, that scene is great because it pits two super geniuses together. He's got Kang over here with his magic like technology, and then you got Hank over here with his super advanced, super smart ants. And it's
Literally just ants.
yeah, but like kind of what I was saying before, like he didn't use that shockwave attack, and he also didn't use his laser gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all they had to do to fix that though was like you could still have the ants like trampling him and everything, but he'll still put up an effort to like use that ability and like use his like lasers and like that kind of
Oh,
stuff. But
another thing he didn't use.
oh
You know how Modoc, to circle back to the scene where Scott and them were in jail,
yeah,
when Modoc was kind of like mouthing Scott, he like pinched his fingers and sent him against the wall.
yeah,
Why didn't he do that at the end when he was smashing into the shield?
that's a good point. That's a
Shame.
great point. Big shame. But yeah, um, he like all they had to do like at the end, like when the ants were swarming Kang, all they had to do was have Scott, Cassie, and Hope still like beating up on Kang, and like in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the ants or one of the three heroes, they had to do was like break his armor because his armor was like a big focal point in like his control of all the technology he had and all of his weapons. All they had to do was break that to make it to where like yeah he can't do that ability anymore because his suit's broken, you know. And like
Exactly.
because they did that thing in the final fight with him and Scott because you see him like he's trying to like he uses the glove to like shoot Scott and then he looks down at himself and he's like it's like sparking because it's not working anymore and he just throws it off anyway because it's useless at that point. All they had to do was have that same thing happen earlier and it would have been fine. But
Which, speaking of that last scene, kind of a con of that moment, I felt like there was not really any stakes. Yeah, Ant-Man was kind of, fighting and was losing,
mm-hmm.
but I felt like there was nothing to lose in that scene when we were watching it. Because
Yeah.
regardless, I felt like, yeah, Kang's gonna lose. Yeah, the movie's pretty much wrapping up. But good lord, if there was more stakes on the table, I feel like that final fight at the end of the movie would have felt drastically different.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, if, like I said earlier, if they had the more personal, down to earth story with Scott and Cassie and like their whole dynamic and how Cassie thinks he's being lazy and just really soaking up the oats from the whole like I saved the universe thing, which I mean is a valid thing. Like he did help save the universe. Like without them, without
Oh
Ant-Man,
yeah.
the end game wouldn't have happened like at all. But that would have been a good touch because uh earlier in the movie when Cassie's like, yeah, like these people need help just because like it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it's not happening. Like that would have been a good like yes, like he character development. He got it. Like he's standing up to the oppressor, you know, like that sounds super like political, but I promise I didn't mean it that way. But like he's like it just would have been it would have shown more development in his character, which I mean at the end of the day he did still fight him and he's still taking down the oppressor. But like it's like if the movie would have slowed down to have those more personal moments between all the characters, like between Scott and Cassie and between Hope, Hank, and Janet, if the movie just would have slowed down from time to time and just let them be them and like talk out their differences and all of that, the stakes in the final fight would have been that much better. And we would have been
Yeah.
eaten.
That's what I'm saying. Because like I just felt like there wasn't much to lose
Mm-hmm.
when they were in that fight. I mean, yeah, it's the final fight. There's one in every single Marvel movie at this point.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there wasn't anything on the table that was presented to me earlier in the film to lose, really.
Mm-hmm. A lot of
So
people think Scott should have died.
see, that's where I thought it was going.
Mm-hmm.
But during the fight, I'm like, nah, they're definitely not gonna can Scott because there's other characters at bay still. You know what I mean? It's not
Mm-hmm.
just them three. And then, like I said, ironically, the rest of them show up, and that was it.
Yeah. Honestly, that would have been, I think, the best way to end the movie, if I'm being completely honest. And I think that would have been also the ballsiest thing they could have done.
Oh, killing Scott?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if they didn't receive our message from the first video, we would have burned the theater to the ground. And there would have been riots in the street.
Yes.
Anarchy would have taken place, for sure.
There would be mass hysteria across the lands.
Literally. But yeah, I feel like that would have been an interesting thing to happen.
Mm-hmm. Because then that would have made Cassie's story going forward that much more compelling because she's kind of not necessarily taking the mantle of Ant-Man, but kind of continuing his work, you know, like also being the person who can shrink and have that kind of technology and that kind of skill set. But she would have that motivation going forward, like, yeah, like I'm doing this for my father, I'm trying to avenge my father, like he came through at the end, he ended up being a stand-up guy, and like I just need to make him proud from beyond the grave, you know.
Exactly, yeah. I felt like I kind of thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Regardless, but I'm kind of glad it didn't because I feel like Scott Lang as a character is still relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
So if they would have just canned him right then and there, yeah, I would have understand, but I kind of would have been disappointed at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, in the multiverse, like I mean, they could have easily pulled in a different version of him, like
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. Yeah.
yeah, like John Campea puts it, it's the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death universe. They can do whatever they want.
Exactly. Which, speaking of which, we could very well see a different version of MODOK.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about that.
Mm-hmm. That's very well possible. But at the same time, I really don't know because a lot of people are dogging on MODOK.
I agree.
So depending on where they go with it, he might come back, he might not. We'll really just have to see.
Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of wait and find out.
Yeah. But
Are we still talking about positives?
yes, yeah, we keep circling back to things that either the movie could have improved or could
Yeah,
have.
we keep going to the cons because
Yeah.
there's just an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, like
Um,
the
the
stuff that
color.
is good is like it's there, but you can either see where they could have done it better, or you could have seen where they could have done it differently, or you're just like, really, that's all we got. Like that's what some people's reaction is, I think.
That's how I felt at the end of the movie with the fight that I was talking about. That's
Yeah.
kind of the same reaction I had.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think
Anyway. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
a big positive of this movie has got to be the colors.
Yes.
Like the suits look great. The quantum realm looks fantastic.
Yes.
The characters though,
Yeah. The characters. It's like kind of
Fiona
having.
from Shrek Forever After definitely makes an appearance in this movie. If you didn't know.
Yes. Like I remember telling you this. I'm like, the leader of the resistance in the quantum realm is trying to be Princess Fiona from Shrek Forever After. So
Literally.
bad. She's trying to be Fiona so bad. It hurts. It hurts my soul.
It is what it is. I personally did not like that character, and I didn't get enough to bond with that character. I don't even know what her name is.
I think it's Gentora, if I
Here's
remember
the
right.
funny thing, though. I don't care.
Yeah, like other than her being like the resistance leader and like, oh, my people and I are being oppressed, like there's really no reason to really give a crap about her.
Yep, she just shows up, and that was my reaction. I do not care.
Yeah. But speaking of characters that we do like, Scott Lang comes in very close second into carrying the movie. So like Kang, he's under the bar and he's like doing his thing, squatting. He's got that like 450 pounds for 3 reps going.
Yeah,
And then Scott is his spotter. He's just like, he's right there with him squatting, but he's not holding the weight, He's just there to kind of catch him if he kind of slips. You know what I'm saying?
Literally. Like, this movie is great. Literally.
Literally. But yeah, Scott, he's great. Lots of great moments. Lots of great jokes. And he really has like a good emotional performance at sometimes too, because in the scene where Kang, like he first meets Kang, he like Kang turns towards Cassie and starts like crushing her, and then like you just see him like obviously he's like no stop no, and then Kang like lowers down the shield, and then Scott, literally just being a guy with a shrinking costume, like has no special powers outside the costume, he's just a guy. He looks at this conqueror and just says, don't touch her again. Like, dude's got balls, especially after he almost killed him, like, and tortured him. Ice. Yeah, dude's got balls. Like, he looked at that conqueror straight in the face and just said, stop. But
literally, like I said a minute ago, I don't care. That's literally how he went about that.
Yeah. He's like, could you like not do that again? That would be great.
Oh, speaking of Scott, this just popped into my head.
Oh.
I think I mentioned this to you when we watched it the second time. I wish, because it was a running joke at the beginning of the movie. Him and Captain America, they got a thing. It's been a thing ever since he first showed up. It was in Endgame. It was in Civil War. Captain America and him, definitely a thing going on.
Yeah.
The joke continued in this movie, and I think to bring that multi-year joke to a full circle at the end of the movie when Scott was getting beaten to death, I wish he would have gotten up and went, I can do this all day.
Dude,
that would have been so nice.
That would have been amazing. Because, like, in Multiverse of Madness, Captain Carter just like fighting Wanda, and she's like, oh, yeah, I can do this all day. But, like, That was just for a quip, honestly. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
had no meat behind it. But like Scott and Cap, they kind of have not necessarily the same dynamic as Iron Man and Spider Man, but it's just to a much lesser extent. Like he's just a big fanboy of Captain America, really looks up to him, and just almost wants to follow in his footsteps in a way.
Well, and like I said, the joke literally started in Civil War and
Yeah,
continued from there.
yeah,
And it's still running in this movie, which is the ironic part. And
yeah.
I just wish they would have brought it full circle like that, because that would have made the joke 10 times better. Going back and rewatching the movies and
Mm-hmm.
then hearing him finally say that line, ice.
Straight up ice. Yeah, and they even have a scene in the movie where he takes off the top of something like a building or something like
Oh,
that
yeah, and
and
uses
uses
it
that
as
as
a
a
shield.
shield. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he could have been like, wow, like so this is what it feels like to be Captain America or something like that. Or like maybe the huge like laser cannons could have been like throwing crap at him, and like all those ships could have been shooting down at him, and then like it would have been really epic for him to have like that piece of the building and then him like use it as almost like a saucer of some sorts and like destroys everything. He's like, I can do this all day or something like
Yeah,
that. Like
that would have been
so
awesome.
epic.
Or kind of like did the happy thing in Spider-Man No Way Home or Far From Home, where it just kind of throws it and it didn't really do anything.
How does Cap do that?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought that was a missed opportunity. I've thought that since the first movie because I genuinely thought he was going to say that. It looked like he was going to say it when he stood up. You know, he's got the blood running down his face. And
Mm-hmm.
in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, he's going to say it. He didn't say it.
He didn't say it.
He didn't say it. And I was very upset.
Yeah. How dare you, Scott? Be better.
You do better.
Oh man. But yeah, that's other than that, like I think that pretty much wraps up our thoughts on the movie as a whole. Like we said, it's a good movie. It's pretty good. It's not going to knock your socks off. It's entertaining. It's got good jokes, even though the jokes are a little much sometimes, which we'll get into here in a sec.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. Like obviously, go see it for yourself. Go make up an opinion of your own. Don't just parrot what other people are saying. And definitely don't take the very hyperbolic opinions and other ramblings that other people on the internet have to say. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like, oh my God, it still just blows my mind how people on like again like Rotten Tomatoes isn't necessarily the greatest source of where to like how to gauge how good a movie is, but like Rotten Tomatoes people, how dare you rate this movie lower than Thor: Love and Thunder? I That's unforgivable.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, like overall, movie's good. Zach, you have any final thoughts on the movie itself?
Other than a couple missed opportunities and a little bit of bad writing,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the movie's great.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely it's got rewatchability. I will say that it's got
Mm-hmm.
that rewatchability factor to where I'll definitely watch it. And the main reason I would rewatch it is definitely because of Kang.
Oh,
Like that
definitely,
performance is top tier.
definitely,
Whereas
definitely.
Thor: Love and Thunder, even though Christian Bale is in that movie and it's great, I have a hard time watching that movie again.
Yeah, yeah. Also, speaking of which, this just popped into my head. Before we move on, the end credits scene
Oh
with
yes.
the Council of Kangs. I think people are misinterpreting what that scene means. Because while like some people are speculating that the Kang that we saw in the movie, like when he got sucked into the multiversal core, some people are saying that he got transported like to the Beyond verse, and he's gonna be a Beyonder in Avengers Secret Wars or something like that. And then other people are saying like, no, like that's impossible because the other kings and the Council of Kings said like, oh, he's dead. You're just mad because you're not the one who did it or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's that whole aspect, which I totally get. But people are saying like, oh, like freaking Ant-Man took down this guy. He's supposed to be the next Thanos. Why am I supposed to give a crap when freaking Ant-Man can just solo him? Which, by the way, he did not solo him. He had help from Wasp and technically Hank, because Hank destroyed his armor, kind of.
Got ants.
Yeah. And the freaking video of Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas like ham boning themselves, like just saying ants. That's so
like
funny.
that's literally how I would describe this movie.
Yeah, just ants.
Just that clip.
Yeah, but anyway, I think people are misinterpreting that, because what I think, like, again, this is just me speculating. Like, I have no insider knowledge. Believe me, I am the furthest person from having insider knowledge. Like, believe me. But
fact check this guy.
They are, like, in my opinion, I think they are setting up Kang to kind of almost be an unstoppable, overwhelming force as a collective than just a central person as the threat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
like
yeah, because like the way I see it, those three main Kangs, like the Ramatut Kang, the Kang with a weird headdress and who talks like this in the end credits scene,
oh god,
who's supposed to be Immortus or something, and then the one who kind of looks like what's his name, the High Evolutionary in
Cyborg.
Guardians 3, kind of looks like him with the like cyborg armor or something.
Yeah,
I think those three are really running the show, because obviously they're in that room together, and then they look out and you see the Kangs and the Coliseum, by the way, which is also a great scene. But
agreed.
But what I think they're doing with that is showing, look how many of the same person you just saw get defeated. Look how many of them there are. Like, you saw what one can do. How about a whole Coliseum full of them?
Yeah.
You know? And like, each of them are different. They might be slightly different, and some of them are majorly different. You know, like that's just the nature of the multiverse. But
exactly
what I think they're going to do, like, they're having these three Kangs run the show, and then like I'm just imagining a scene. Like, I don't know if this is actually what they're going to do, but it kind of calls back to the probability storm scene with Scott. Like, just imagine, like, you have like the Avengers, you have maybe the Fantastic Four if they're going to be in Secret Wars, you have
all the Kangs.
Yeah, like you have the heroes on one side, and then you just have a literal flood of just Kangs just coming in like a tidal wave of people.
Z type
stuff. Yeah.
Just Kang.
Yeah, like literally just that. Like, but just imagine a technological god, basically, just a sea of them, just a whole bunch of them. Like
the main threat for this next, like, what are we calling this chapter in the MCU?
Saga, I guess, multiverse saga.
Yeah, it's literally not Kang. It's the main threat is possibility, because it is endless.
Yeah,
with this multiverse, it could go on forever.
Exactly. Like, and what the end credit tag at the end, like after both scenes play, it's like Kang will return. Well,
I assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point we don't know if it's the same Kang we just saw or if it's going to be a different Kang. But you have to imagine, as sadistic and as maniacal and as evil as this one was, there's a whole Coliseum and potentially more of Kang or different Kangs that we have to deal with. And so even if they don't do like the whole flood of Kangs, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they still like, oh, we killed one Kang, and then all of a sudden one pops out from a portal and like kills Wasp or something like that. Like
They're expendable.
yeah,
They
like
really don't care. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly.
So, since you brought that up, that brings up a good point. I personally, in the second cutscene, the last one,
Mm-hmm.
I think that version of Kang is the version of Kang we see in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay, like at a different point in time.
Yeah, like he's there first,
Yeah.
and then he gets exiled because of whatever he did in that point in time, because he's obviously hiding there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a hiding spot for him because something happened and he ran and ended up here. At least that's what it looks like, because he's not going by the name of Kang. It's going by, like, Victor or whatever.
Yeah, Victor Timely.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously something happens. He gets exiled into this version that we see or he gets exiled into the quantum realm and is stuck.
He just got stuck.
But the only part that makes that theory confusing to me is that Loki is there. And partially the newer, different version of the TVA.
Yeah,
Because
that's Loki season 2 is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because of the end of the first season, that's a different Mobius.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he somehow figured out a way to go to that different time stream or whatever, which I'm pretty sure got destroyed, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I don't know. That'll be a video for another day.
Yeah, like Loki, like in and of itself in a vacuum is just has a lot going on by itself, and you add in Quantumania, it just throws more, it sprinkles more salt, like Salt Bay, onto the pile. You know.
Literally, like, and I'm happy. I'm very happy that he actually did show up. Because it's been a running gag, I think, from every MCU project that me and you have gone to see. Oh, Loki's got to show up at some point in this, because with the way that they set that show up, he could. It's like a Men in Black character. He could literally show up at any point in time, and it would make sense, and they could get away with it.
Yes. Well, I just can't wait for that Loki to meet our Thor. You know, like that's going to be a weird scene.
That is going to be very odd, yes.
Yeah.
Or I just want to see Mobius meet most of the characters.
Yes.
Even though he has, at some point in time, met these characters, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. That's at some point, maybe.
Yeah, but it would just be nice for us to see.
Yeah. Also, like this just popped in my head too. Like before we move on, I have holes.
Gross.
that like jelly guy, I forgot what his name was, but
it's probably Jelly Guy.
Ayo, jelly guy, give me the ooze. Drink.
Okay, for the
ooze.
longest time, I could not figure out whose voice that was, but you know whose voice that is, don't you? So you know the crew that Scott Lang had in both Ant-Man movies, right?
Yeah.
The guy that kept saying the Baba Yaga or whatever, the Russian dude.
What?
He played Polka Dot Man too.
Yeah.
It's him, yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Which is kind of dope, because that means he's been in all 3 Ant-Man movies.
Yeah.
But I'm still sad Lewis wasn't in this movie.
Yeah, dude. What a missed opportunity that was. Oh my
Honestly,
god.
at this point, they need to just do like a Clone Wars narration at the beginning of every MCU movie. You know how like at the beginning of every Clone Wars episode, it has the same voice actor that does the narration. They need to just do that at the beginning of every MCU movie, just with Lewis. Previously on the MCU timeline, you know.
Yeah, so back in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, there was this guy named Kang. Like, that would be so sick.
Showed up
oh
and
my
conquered
god.
everything. Kind of whack, but you know.
That would be so sick. Like, just imagine, like, you see, like, Kang, like, big, brooding guy. You see him talking like Luis does. That would be so good.
That's what I'm saying. I'm here to conquer everything.
So good. Oh my god. Also, a couple other things that just popped into my head, I swear to God. But At least to me, I think there's a couple of like two in particular, but I think there's a couple of very glaring editing errors in this movie, like with how the scenes are edited together, you know?
Yeah.
Because in the scene where Cassie and Scott get like abducted by the quantum realm people, it cuts back to Hank, Janet, and Hope. And then when it cuts back to Scott and Cassie, you don't see Cassie, but you see Scott getting dragged into the middle of the crowd. And then, like, the jelly guy's trying to talk to him or whatever, and Scott can't understand him. And then you see Cassie with her mouth, like, covered in the ooze, because I guess she already drank it somehow, some way, sometime. And she's just like, drink the ooze. And then it just cuts back to Hank, Hope, and Janet. And then after it cuts back to Scott, he's still in that scene where he's binded up and getting ready to drink the ooze. Cause like time, not only is time passing, like for the Scott or for the Hank, Hope, and Janet scenes, but time isn't really passing the same way for that scene, you know, for Scott.
Yeah.
And like my question is, where did Cassie go? Like, why did they give her, like, why did they drag her ahead of Scott and give her the ooze first, and then a couple minutes later give it to Scott? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I think that was a very, at least to me, I think that was a very glaring editing issue. And then something that really jumped out at me, like even the very first time I saw the movie, at the end when like Scott is Giant Man and he has Hope like literally standing on his mask. I think either Scott or Hope is like, hey, I have an idea. And then it cuts to Kang or something, and then it cuts back to the Hope and Scott, but Scott is small again. Like there's no, like, you don't even hear the sound. Like, and like the cut to Kang or whatever it was, like it wasn't even that long of it. Like it was like from Hope and Scott cuts somewhere else, and then it cuts back to them like maybe 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds later, and then Scott is just small inside Hope's hand, and you're like, what? Like they didn't even have the sound effect of him shrinking or whatever. Like that, he just appeared small again. I was just like, bruh, come on now.
So the only editing thing that really just irked me, and I think I pointed it out when we watched it together, at the very beginning of the movie, when you see the cityscape of San Francisco and it turns out to be a bus,
Yeah.
and the camera literally pans off, and then as soon as the bus moves, it immediately pans back to the bus so it can move. That hurts my eyes. Don't ever do that again.
Do better,
Keep
Peyton
the
Reed.
camera stationary and just let the bus drive by.
Yeah.
Don't move the camera, because the bus was parked like it was at a stoplight. The camera's literally panning off to the left like it's going to focus on Scott, and then the bus moves and it immediately moves back to the bus. Oh, gross.
Straight up nasty.
I just don't like that. Don't ever do that again.
I will not have that, sir. Please get it out of my
Giving
face.
this movie a bad rating. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, guys, we promise we like this movie. We just keep seeing things that are just so blatantly obvious, you know, like we said at the beginning. If a couple of idiots like us can find out these problems, you'd think some guys whose jobs it is to make these movies would be able to spot them and fix them. But I mean,
Exactly. Like, we're no Rotten Tomatoes team, but
it's just right there. It's right there.
that's all I gotta say. I just gotta exhale very, very loudly.
Just a very disappointed sigh. Like,
Like, here's the way I picture it. You got Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's just like typed up on a blank sheet of paper. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and then underneath yes with a question mark. That's it.
I like it. I like it.
That's it. That's the way I describe this movie. Yes.
Yes. So, kind of to feed into that a little, now that we're finally moving on, um, the overall state of the MCU after Quantumania, like, it's in a very shaky position right now, I would say.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of people are saying, like, yeah, the MCU has lost its magic. The MCU just doesn't have that spark that it used to, or like that, like, kind of the throw it back to John Campea. He says, like, and when he says the MCU has lost its magic, like back during the Infinity Saga, phases 1 through 3, when especially during like phase 3, like with starting with Civil War, you felt like you had to see every single Marvel movie because you didn't want to miss out on what was going to happen next or what character was going to pop up and where the story was going to go. You didn't want to see, you didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
And then there was just like the, for the most part, Captain Marvel notwithstanding, but pretty quality writing and for the most part, pretty quality CGI and all like it was just good. At the end of the day, not only were they good movies for the MCU and further the story, by themselves, phases 1 through 3 more often than not just had great movies to offer. But as of recently, especially with phase 4 being a little shakier than phases 1 through 3, we're kind of starting to see the cracks in the system, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, at least for me, I think the best movies in phase 4 were Black Panther Wakanda Forever, obviously Spider-Man No Way Home, um, gosh,
That's about it, really.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is a close 3, but I mean, even
It's aight.
still, yeah, it could have been way better than it was. That's a can of worms for another
Yeah,
day.
we'll set that aside.
Yeah, we're gonna get stuck on a tangent again about Doctor Strange.
I okay, I think the MCU as a whole, like I think their best move going forward is to slow down.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like after this movie is said and done, it gets released to Disney Plus, and I think what's next? A show? Is it
I
isn't it the
think it's
Marvel?
Secret Invasion.
Is it Secret Invasion?
I think that
After
comes
the
out this month, actually.
does it actually, or is it May? I feel like it's May.
I'm almost positive of this month, unless it got delayed. I could be wrong. I'll have to look it up.
I was gonna say we'll have to check. Anyway, after the shows have run their course, I say slow it down.
Yes, and we're already starting to see that. Because I don't know if you've heard like the more recent like MCU movie slate rumors, but you know how Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty were actually going to come out in the same year. Like Kang Dynasty was going to come out in May, and then Secret Wars was going to come out in November of 2025 or 2026, I think. And now Secret Wars has been pushed back all the way to 2028, if the rumors are true. So, and like I think they've also said that Secret Invasion, Echo, and Loki season 2 are the only shows coming out this year, and they might throw in a special presentation for the holiday season like they did last year.
Yeah.
And they even pushed back the Marvels back
That's what I
to
heard.
November 10th. So, like, we're
So
already starting to see them kind of pump the brakes a little because they were like, I don't know if you saw this metric, but if you added up the total watch time of phases 1 through 3, phase 4 by itself is longer than phases 1 through 3, if you can believe that.
yikes.
And I think it's by like an hour or two. Like an hour or two longer than phases 1 through 3. Like just phase 4 by itself. Like that just goes to show how much they were just dumping out there, you know? And like I remember specifically Kevin Feige was asked like, yeah, like you have like all these amazing shows and all these great movies coming out, but at the same time, like, are you sure you're going to be able to keep up the same level of quality we've come to know from Marvel? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, of course, like we have a bunch of great quality writers, and we love all the people we work with, and we just have a good system going, and I think it's going to do us wonders or something like that. Obviously, that's not exactly what he said, but I'm paraphrasing. But obviously, that has not been the case. Like, there's been, I would say duds. There's been more duds in the most recent years than there have been bangers, I would say.
I think the reason for that is because they've been rushing everything
Mm-hmm.
out all at
Yeah.
once.
And this is a spicy hot take, in my opinion, but I think that, and just a fair warning to anyone watching or listening, this is going to get real, like, uh, behind the business side of things, I guess. So if you don't really care about that, this might get a little, like, for you, but this is just what I think, since I keep up with it. Bob Chapek was the most recent, or before Bob Iger came back in. Bob Iger was the one who had Disney buy Star Wars, which I should probably also say Bob Iger was the CEO of Disney for a long time. He was the one who bought Star Wars. He was the one who bought Marvel. He was the one who conceived of Disney Plus, and he was also the one who bought Fox, so we could have the X-Men and Fantastic Four again. But in 2019, I think Bob Chapek, who was on the board of directors for Disney, he then became the CEO. Bob Chapek became the CEO of Disney. And from what I've heard, like from people like John Campea and a bunch of other people on YouTube and other sources, Bob Iger was more of a creative than he was a businessman. I mean, obviously he was a businessman. He was the CEO of a huge corporation, but he had confidence and he had faith in the creatives behind the studios he was working with. Like at every red carpet, you would see Bob Iger there with the cast and crew, all smiling, all jumping for joy and all that kind of stuff. But then when Bob Chapek came along, Bob Chapek was more of a businessman and didn't have as much faith in the creatives kind of leading the charge behind what they were putting out. So when Bob Chapek came in, he kind of put extra layers of authority above the creatives behind like Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. And I forgot exactly where this came from, but there's some quote or there's some article out there that has him basically saying like, yeah, my goal is to basically really push Disney Plus so we can get as many subscribers as possible as quickly as possible so we can quickly turn a profit. Because I don't know if you knew this or not, but most, if not all, streaming services these days, like Disney, Amazon, HBO, they are all operating at a loss. And only there's a few of them like Netflix, Amazon, and I think Disney. I think those are the three, probably Apple TV as well, who are the closest to start to turn a profit. But as of right now, all of them are operating at a loss. So basically, this whole tangent that I've been going on, I think Bob Chapek and his wanting to push Disney Plus and gain as many subscribers as possible as quickly as possible led to the decline in quality in Marvel, the decline in quality in Star Wars, and the decline in quality in Pixar and Disney, because obviously their most recent animated efforts haven't been as good. Like Strange World wasn't really as poppin' as people wanted it to be, and uh, Pixar for a little while they were basically a Disney Plus only studio, because like I think 3 or 4 of their movies that they wanted to go to theaters were just shoved on Disney Plus and branded as an original product for that streaming service. So yeah, I think Bob Chapek is a big reason as to why the movies and shows that we're getting are the way they are, because everything was trying to push Disney Plus. And Kevin Feige even said, like, yeah, we're making these shows on Disney Plus to where you don't even need to really watch them in order to know what's going on in the movies. But like for Multiverse of Madness, if you watch Endgame, Far From Home, and like basically all the movies, and don't even watch Disney Plus, and then watch Multiverse of Madness, her turn as a villain comes out of basically nowhere. I mean, later in the movie, she kind of explains why she's doing what she's doing, but you don't get to see that. And like her explanation isn't as good as what we saw in WandaVision, you know?
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with Kang and Loki in the multiverse and everything, like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And because like Spider-Man is technically first in front of Multiverse of Madness, but Spider-Man's not on Disney Plus. So the multiverse really just kind of comes out of nowhere. But if you watch Loki, the multiverse, well, I mean, technically the multiverse was already a thing, but the multiverse and what we see it now happened because of Loki and Sylvie in the Loki series.
Yeah.
And now in the Marvels, like somehow, some way, they're gonna have to explain why the heck Ms. Marvel got beamed up to space and why Captain Marvel is in Kamala's bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
So like I really do think that Bob Chapek and his kind of business driven ideas were a lot of not the main thing, but I think is most definitely without a doubt a factor in why we've seen such a sharp decline in quality. So that kind of ends that whole rant off for me. Sorry, I went off for a little long.
Yeah, I was just letting you go. I was like, all right, I honestly don't know where this is going, but let's tune in.
Yes. Yeah, like I've been thinking about that for a while, and I was like, that, like at least to me, I think it makes sense. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, the way I laid it out.
Oh yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just my point is still valid. They need to slow down because
Yes.
it's pissing me off. Um,
Everything I just said for like the past 5 minutes summed up perfectly right there.
yep, mad. Um,
Pissed.
some can say angry. Um, but I just think the best thing going forward for any project that is, I mean, Star Wars, it's kind of got its own issues going on, but for the MCU, um, it just, I think the anticipation would build a lot more, just like Endgame when it paid off, if we waited.
Absolutely. And like Kevin Feige has even said, like, yeah, like we're really aiming for Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars to be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame. Well,
Build up to it.
yeah, like if you want that to happen, like pretty much, I'm not the only, I mean, Infinity War and Endgame are great movies as themselves, but
Yeah.
the amount of hype that was going into Infinity War and then going into Endgame especially was insane. Like you could not.
Because it took so long to get there, the anticipation built over time. It marinated over time, and it aged like a fine wine whenever it was presented in front of us.
Exactly. Like everyone, like I was saying before, everyone wanted to know what was going to happen next and didn't want to miss out on anything. And the the profits that the movies pulled in showed that, like, people wanted to know and wanted to see these movies to see what was going to happen and how it all ended. Because I don't know if this is right as of this moment, but if you take the averages of all of the phases 1 through 3 movies, if you take the averages of all their box office earnings, they average out to $1 billion per film, which is insane because most of the phase 1 movies, aside from the Avengers, didn't even make $1 billion.
Yeah, they let it build. They let
Exactly.
it cook.
They let these guys cook, and look what happened.
That's
Gold.
that's the ice. That's the way it should have
Fire.
been. Whereas I felt like back in the day when I was a kid, it was so much easier to keep up with the MCU because they took their time with it.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody like my mom or my dad,
Mm-hmm.
they have a hard time getting behind any of the MCU projects. They want to watch it, but the reason they're so far behind is because they're pumping out so much at a time. They just kind of gave up because they felt overwhelmed by how much they needed to get caught up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Whereas like the Infinity Saga, they could keep up with it because it was like 2 or 3 years apart from a movie and there was no shows.
Yeah. Like,
So it was just easy to manage.
yeah, and like, if they want to kind of have these shows affect and be implemented into the overall story with the movies, they need to either make less of them or make the projects themselves either,
Movies.
yeah, either, like, they're already starting to do that because, like, they're kind of tinkering with some movies or tinkering with some miniseries that could end up being a special presentation or end up being a movie. Like Armor Wars, when it was first announced, that was going to be a Disney Plus show, but now it's a full blown movie and it's going to be released probably in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So they need to cut back, and they also need to realize, okay, we got a story that we want to tell, but what is the best way to tell that story? Like, if it's going to be a series, are we dragging it along and making it boring and having the payoff at the end of the series not be what it could be if it were scrunched together and more precisely contained into a special presentation or a full-on movie? Like, they need to be smarter in making these kinds of decisions, because especially with things like Moon Knight, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Miss Marvel and Loki, they were good as shows. But yeah, like those two in particular, like those two could have either been a special presentation or a movie, like easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just need to like slow down and just take a look at what they got and really just have better judgment as to how they're gonna put it out. Because having these 6 episode miniseries that like for the most part, all of them start off great. Like episode 1 of WandaVision, or episodes 1 and 2 of WandaVision, great. The first couple episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, great. But towards the middle, they really just start lagging, and like the story, like they either take it to places that's unnecessary, or just like they're just not as concise as they can be.
It would have felt better to watch as a movie because then you could just watch it as a whole.
Yeah.
Whereas the anticipation building up in that 3rd episode that kind of, fell off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like watching a show, bam, bam, constantly just pumping out great episodes, and then you have that filler episode
Yeah.
that you always regret watching when you rewatch the show.
Yeah.
That's like the 3rd episode of each series.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it was a movie, that's just the middle part of the movie. That's just the boring part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to fast forward or skip it because you got to pay attention to that part. But the movie is over after that.
Yeah.
You just watch the rest of the movie, you're done. Whereas the show, you got to wait till next week for the next episode, and God only knows if it's going to be better or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And if anything, this might be a hot take, but I think they should just get rid of the 6 to 9 episode, or they could probably keep the 9 episodes, I guess. Like that should be the minimum. But the 6 episode miniseries, that needs to be tossed into the garbage can and burned by a fire. Because like that, like if they're gonna have like that sort of a concept for a miniseries, quote unquote, scrunch it together, make the writing more concise or whatever, and then make it be a special presentation on Disney Plus. Or if you really do want to make it a series, make it to be like Daredevil Born Again that's coming out next year, where it's 18 episodes. That's a TV show.
I agree.
Like this whole like 6 episode thing, like it was okay starting out. Like WandaVision was 9 episodes. Like I said, 9 should be the absolute minimum. Like, and like what they're doing with Daredevil, I think that's perfect. 18 episodes, and like they're all probably going to be, depending on like how or what they're going to do, they're all probably going to be like 30 to 45 minutes long. A few of them might be longer than others. But if they're going to do those long of episodes, they need to make it at least 18 episodes like what they're doing with Daredevil. But at the same time, the story that they're trying to tell needs to warrant that. So again, that kind of goes back to, are they using their best judgment as to how they're delivering these projects, you know?
No, they're not.
Yeah. They're just simply not. But yeah, like if they want Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty to be bigger than Endgame and Infinity War, they got to get the train back on the tracks, because right now we're looking a little bit like Ohio right now.
Yeah,
for the MCU.
Not a good situation.
Yeah, not a very good situation indeed.
I think the best course of action, like I said, you could keep doing the shows. This is another hot take, by the way, since this is a podcast. I think the shows and stuff, yeah, you can keep doing that. I understand. At the end of the day, it's going to be a lot for somebody to catch up on. Because if I was to just stop caring about the MCU for a couple years and come back, like let's say when the last movie of this phase comes out, I'm going to have so much to catch up on. It's unreal. But if you were to implement like what I was saying and just let the anticipation build and just slowly pump out these projects like you did with the previous phase, like over the course of like a long time, like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I feel like Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars would hit so much harder, because that would give your audience as a whole time to catch up. Whereas if you just keep pumping the stuff out, it's going to be hard to follow with newer audiences that you're pulling in with these newer projects, because then once they watch it, a character could mention one singular thing and be like, what's that? Well, 12 movies ago, this happened, but the only reason you can watch that movie is because you have to watch the very first movie, Iron Man. So that could be a little overwhelming for newcomers, I think.
Yeah. Like, even for people who stopped watching after, like, Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home, like, if they're like, yeah, like, Kang Dynasty's coming out, I need to catch up on what I missed. At that point, you have all of Phase 4, which, again, is more watch time than Phases 1 through 3 combined.
Yeah.
And then you have the rest of Phase 5 and whatever else is going to lead up to Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars. Like, at this point, it's almost feeling like homework.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's tedious.
Yeah, and like, if anything, like, I think a good balance for the MCU at this point would be, obviously they're a movie franchise, so 3 movies a year. Because that's what they were basically doing for all of Phase 3, if I'm not mistaken, and for the most part, all those movies were great.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 movies a year, one TV show like Daredevil Born Again. That's like actually a TV show and not a miniseries. And then either 2 special presentations or one special presentation and 2 long going TV series for Disney Plus. I mean, at the end of the day, that's still a lot of content to get through and still more homework for people to have to do. But I think that would be a lot better of a content load, I'd
I feel
say.
like that'd be easier to follow,
Yeah.
whereas
Because
you
okay.
overwhelm somebody with like all those shows that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would just be nice to release 3 films a year, like you were saying. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And then have either one special presentation or two to bridge in between those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like have something that's happening during the film
Yeah.
or have something that's happening before the next one to bridge into the next movie, or release 3 this year, have a special presentation at the end of the year to bridge into the next 3 films, and
Mm-hmm.
then have a show in between those. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Just have constant flow of content, but not all at once.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if anything, like you could still keep the 3 movies a year. And what they could do, because like what the rumor is now, they're planning on excuse me, they're planning on a special presentation for Nova, who's a new character, and they're also planning a holiday special for the Century. And like if they want to do that for new characters, like have special presentations either be for new characters or a holiday special, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Like the Guardians one, that was
yeah,
ice.
yeah, that was straight ice. And whoever says that special presentation is bad doesn't know how to have a good time, because that Christmas special was amazing. I don't care what anyone says.
I agree. I loved it.
Yeah, like if they want to use special presentations for holiday specials and or like introducing a new character, but their introduction doesn't warrant them being a part of a bigger story in a movie or being a part of a long-running TV series, then that's perfect. The special presentation format is perfect. But if they want to have a show that kind of ties together with what's going on in the movies or what's going on with certain characters that are from the movies, then that totally makes sense to have a long-running show about them. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah, like they really, like at the end of the day, like we keep saying, they just need to pump the brakes, slow down, give the artists and the basically the magic makers behind all of these amazing shows and movies that we're trying to watch, like give them time to actually see their visions to the fullest extent and make it to where they're not hating their lives for working on these movies. Because I don't know if you've heard or not, but a lot of the VFX artists that work with Marvel are like pulling insane amounts of work hours during the week, and some of them don't even go home because their shift ends so late in the night to where they don't even have enough time to go home, like take a shower, go to bed, wake up, eat breakfast, maybe take a shower again, and then head back to work. Like some of them just sleep at the office. Like that's insane.
Yeah, that's bad.
Like if what they're trying to is obviously with these movies, I think another thing too, they need to have a, a a good balance between practical sets and CGI, because them using the volume stage like what they're using for the Mandalorian, like that's kind of what the volume kicked off, was like Mandalorian season 2. They use the volume stages for these huge vast like cityscapes and landscapes like you see on Tatooine or the Quantum Realm. Like all of that is well and good.
Yeah.
but they need to have a like some sort of like on top of the volume, they need to fit in more practical sets to kind of use that as a starting point for what they're trying to build digitally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, like if they just can find a balance between practical and digital, I think the movies would be that much better because then you'll be able to feel the environment and you'll be able to feel the props and you'll be able to feel uh, what the characters are doing and uh, all of that kind of stuff. Because with when everything is digital, I mean, some of the behind the scenes videos I've seen from Marvel movies, like a lot of it is them either standing on something or like they have like basic like different platforms for people to stand on or be around, and then the rest of it is either a giant blue screen or a giant green screen or they're in the volume stage or something like that. Like there's just too much VFX going on. And like obviously
Yeah.
with these superhero movies and movies these days in general, there's a lot more CGI elements being added because we're just at a point in time where technology is that advanced to where we can basically make whatever kind of movies and whatever kind of elements you want in your movie like that you can imagine. Like you're at this point your imagination is the limit when it comes to either animation or live action with CGI.
Literally.
But
Widowy.
he's literally hitting the quitty on a water. But yeah, like they just need to find that perfect balance. And once they do, like if they could take all like if Kevin Feige is somehow listening or if he was like Andrew and Zach, listen, obviously the ship is rocking back and forth. We got some leaks. We need to find out how to fix this bad boy. What are your thoughts? Lead us in the right direction. Well,
Listen. Take a
listen
seat,
here, Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah, like if, like that. Like at the end of the day, this is kind of what I and what you, Zach, are kind of looking for when it comes to how the MCU can kind of course correct and get back to being consistently good. Like I remember putting on my Snapchat my overall review about She-Hulk, especially after that last episode. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I remember saying something along the lines of like at the end of the day, like the show wasn't for me, but at the same time, like I'm really disappointed in the fact that a franchise that was once consistently good has gone this low or something like that.
Yeah.
Like yikes. So yeah, like we like obviously I'm a huge nerd. I still love Marvel. I'm a huge Marvel fan.
Regardless,
I'm a huge
I'm
DC
always
fan.
going to watch either franchise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it is a bad series, I'm still going to give it a shot.
Yeah,
But
if I didn't care about this thing, I wouldn't have watched She-Hulk, or I wouldn't have watched Ms. Marvel, or I wouldn't have watched, or I'm not going to watch the Marvels when that comes out this year. I'm still going to, but if I didn't care enough as much as I does, or as much as I do, I wouldn't.
yeah, agreed. Like if they didn't have a major part in the MCU, kind of like some of the Netflix Marvel properties where they don't really have an impact on the MCU, I probably wouldn't watch them.
Yeah. So, but I have hope. Like we said, we've kind of already seen the ripple effects of the feedback from what people have given Marvel Studios and Disney from the past couple of projects and the fact that they haven't been as good as we are used to them being. We've already seen a slowdown in production. We've seen major changes when it comes to the creative side. So things are looking up for the most part, but I'm not going to lie. It's not like the magic of the MCU is gone for me. I will say it just has me a little,
Worried.
yeah, a little worried. Like it, I'm still on the coaster. I'm still on for the ride, but I'd be lying if I said I'm fully confident in what the future holds for the rest of this franchise.
I'm not. I'm pretty blunt when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm straight up not having a good time.
my
I'm
disappointment is
confused and I'm
immeasurable.
scared.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
That could be said for any MCU character at this given point in time in the MCU.
Oh man.
But to circle back around to Ant-Man, what are your thoughts on the movie? Did you think it was good? Because I'm going to tell everybody in the audience that is still listening to go watch it regardless of the reviews, because
Yes.
it's not that bad. The reviews are lying to you. Just go into this movie blind. I mean, obviously you kind of can't now because the movie's been out for a week. Actually, it's been out for longer than a week now.
About like 3 weeks or so, but
Yeah, so there's definitely spoilers everywhere, and if you haven't seen it, that's kind of your own fault. Um, but I'd still go watch it. It's really not that bad. I found it very entertaining.
yeah, it's entertaining. It's got good jokes. It's got good action. It's got good characters, for the most part, and it's got a good story, for the most part.
It's got its moments,
Yeah,
but other than that, great movie.
yeah, it's a good watch. Like, I would definitely be down to see it one more time before it leaves theaters. But I don't think that'll happen just because of my schedule and everything. But if I had the opportunity to, I definitely would.
Agreed.
Yeah, like I think that this is a tipping point in the MCU as we know it. Because
Hopefully in a good direction.
yes, because I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that's going to be a banger no matter what, because James
Agreed.
Gunn is a freaking madman, but also a genius at the same time. So I pretty much have nothing but good good hopes and confidence in Guardians 3.
You'll
But
definitely hear it here if we're disappointed, that's for sure.
oh yes, we'll be the first ones to tell you how hard the ball dropped, if the ball does drop as hard as we hope it doesn't do.
Yeah, let's hope. But then
Yeah,
again, who knows?
who knows? But I think because the fact that they delayed the Marvels as long as they did, apparently what they're doing is kind of reworking the middle part and the ending of the movie. So the fact that they've delayed it for as long as they did, I think that's a great sign, and I think that'll be the real kind of signal as to how the MCU is going to course correct itself. Like
Yeah.
like I said, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the tipping point, and what I'm hoping is that the Marvels is going to be the results from that tipping point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think the movie's good. Definitely give it a watch. If I had to rate it out of 10, 1 being the worst thing I've ever seen, 10 being the greatest thing I've ever seen, depending on the day, right now I'm hovering between a 6.5 and a 7 out of 10, but I'm leaning more closer to a 7 out of 10.
I'd give it a solid 6.
Solid 6.
Yeah, I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world,
Yeah.
because we've obviously dished out some hate. Like, we got beef with Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie,
Yes.
not good.
Yes, we do.
That for me, we'll save that rating for that episode. But
Yeah.
on just to put it into perspective for everybody, A 6. That's pretty generous compared to what I'm about to rate Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh boy.
That's a hot take, but
Oh,
I'm saving that for the next video.
spicy.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, like I said, 6.5 to 7. Zach gives it a 6. So go out, watch the movie yourselves, form your own opinion. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the freaking crazy people out there saying it's the worst thing to ever grace the silver screen. Just go form your own opinion. And in fact, don't even listen to us. Like we're just two dudes giving our opinion. Go form your own opinion. I think that's something that is kind of almost lost. I wouldn't say completely lost, but almost lost in today's world. Like everyone just parrots what other people say. But anyway,
Well,
I think that is all we have for you guys today. This is a bit of a longer video, but I think it definitely warranted it. I think it was a great conversation.
agreed.
Yeah, and yeah, I think we all had a good time. So let us know down below what you thought, what you would like to see next. I believe our next video is either a taking a gander or one of our other series that we have yet to unveil, but that'll be up for debate or whatever. So just stay tuned. Again, our socials are down in the description, so definitely follow us there if you want to keep up with all of that kind of fun stuff and kind of get to know us as people better. So yeah, that's kind of all we got for you guys today. Zach, do you have any closing thoughts?
Honestly, the only closing thought I have to say, get rid of the nanotech in all the movies. Just get rid of it.
Just get rid of it.
I'm done with it. I'm still fed up on it. I'm riding that high horse all the way to the end of the video. Just get rid of it.
Come on, Marvel. Do better.
But other than that, I'm pretty well. I'm cleansed. My hatred for nanotech has finally left my body.
Got
I
that
think
release.
I think at the end of the day, this was a great video.
Mm-hmm.
Like Andrew said earlier, definitely don't listen to us. Go watch the movie first. Leave it down in the comments. Let us know what you thought of the video. If you really want to voice your opinions, we'd love to hear it, because in all honesty, the movie is not that bad.
No.
But we'll leave it up for debate. We'll just leave it there. We'll put a pin in it right there. Let you guys decide. I think we're gonna end the video right here.
Yep. So like and subscribe if you liked what you see, and stay tuned for more great content coming in the near future. So this is Andrew and Zach at the NitPickCentral podcast, and we are signing out.